A few months ago, Funko mentioned the possibility of doing some pops based on historical figures, and they did throw out a couple of names. I believe Mozart may have been one of them. Shakespeare may have been another one. I'm not 100% sure. It's been tough to try to find that quote again. But ever since they mentioned that, that's something that I have wanted to address within a video. So you see the focus of this video here, historical figures as Funko Pops. So let's really go ahead and get into this. Now, for one thing, I do want to point out that Funko has dabbled in this just a little bit in the fact that they have, of course, their NFL line, NBA line, these different sports, major sports. And, via that, there have been some historical figures, you could say. But we also have noticed that, there may be some issues there because think about the Joe Montana pop figure, which was suddenly pulled and, pretty much disappeared. So that shows that there's definitely some issues and, some things, some challenges basically that the company has to face when dealing with historical figures. Then also, of course, with the Pop Rocks line, you could say that there's some historical figures there as well, including Michael Jackson and Elvis, of course, two very major, musicians. And they dabbled just a little bit into politics. Of course, they had the presidential candidates, including Trump, Hillary Clinton, and Bernie Sanders. And then also with the Royals, which was kind of a surprise. And I didn't really know how people were going to take that when I first saw these pops. But it seems like they've gone over pretty well. And, some people are really enjoying collecting those, especially tracking down Princess Diana, the Chase variant. So, at least that went over well. But, as I said, there are definitely some hurdles that Funko will face when dealing with historical figures. And I do want to go ahead and address some of those hurdles. The first hurdle to me is just from a design standpoint. There are a lot of historical figures that may not exactly be super impressive, as far as design goes. And that's nothing against the people personally. It's just that, with the Funko Pop, it's kind of that guy in a suit issue. There's a lot of figures that are based on, they could be characters from TV and movies like you see these examples here. And, that's all good and they're fine when they're in the box. But when you take them out of the box and you stand them next to each other, it's just a bunch of guys in a suit. They're very nondescript, and I think those pops, they don't sell super well when it's basically just a guy in a suit or even a woman in a suit, or some kind of plain clothing. So, yeah, that's definitely a hurdle that they will face, trying to make sure that the designs really stand apart and, you don't have to have them in the box to exactly know who they are. Also, it could be an issue with obtaining rights and avoiding lawsuits from individuals or estates. Now, in the case of Joe Montana, it could be that there wasn't full approval for that figure to be made. I mean, Joe Montana may have knew nothing about that. Funko may have assumed that they could make a pop of him because they have the NFL license, and that may not apply to players that are retired. Who knows what really happened there? But yeah, this is definitely something that Funko needs to be aware of, because a good example of this, when we talk about historical figures, I think Rosa Parks may come to a lot of people's mind, but there was that case where she actually had a lawsuit against Outkast for making a song that used her name. So again, Funko has to be very careful about this and make sure that they have the approval to use people's identity, as pop figures. And then there really are some ethical dilemmas there that involve race, culture, religion, politics, and just good taste in general. I think a lot of things are going to be very questionable. For example, I think a lot of people would agree Martin Luther King Jr., it'd be great to have as a pop figure, a way to represent him. But, Malcolm X was also a very influential civil rights leader, but one that was a lot more controversial. So, would he be a good idea or not? I mean, would that be risky for the company? Who knows? Also, I have the Gandhi bobblehead here just to point out that, I see some historical figures as bobbleheads and, other items. And I don't know, sometimes it just makes me feel a little unease. It's like, I don't really know if that's respectful or not, so that's definitely that's something that could be questionable. Even with Princess Diana, when they made her pop, I was like, I don't know about that, especially making a Chase variant. I was just a little iffy on that. And like I said, I'm glad that it's been well received, but it still is something that could rub people, the wrong way, possibly. Even with people's religion, there are some religions where it basically, you're not supposed to represent yourself like as like a, something that could be perceived as an idol, so it's something that they have to be very careful about. And even with I was thinking about Native Americans that are very important in history. But when you do them as a pop, I mean, is that disrespectful? Could it be taken as something that's like kitschy, like like something that you would find in like a gas station on the roadside? I mean, it could be taken in the wrong way. So again, I hope that Funko, if they decide to do some historical figures, that they just tread very lightly, because there definitely could be some concerns there. Now, there are some potential positives as well, which I also want to address. For one thing, of course, it would be a way to pay homage to positive figures and what they believed in, so again, I got to bring up Martin Luther King Jr. I think it would make sense, that his message is still very much important. He still had a lot of words that I think people need to pay attention to. So, a pop figure may not be like a major tribute or anything, but, there are a lot of pop collectors out there. So, I think that would be something cool, and then also with Princess Diana, just her positivity is something that people really appreciated. And she really was a positive person. I mean, she was even a children's author, so yeah, I think that's something that helps people to remember them in that positive way, and to help their messages, stay alive also. And then also, I mean, this is something I don't know if Funko would be willing to do, but I think it would be a great idea. They could use part of the proceeds earned from these pop figures to actually support causes related to those individuals. So in other words, of course, they could donate part of the proceeds to charities. So for example, like let's say they did some pops of composers or, certain musicians, that money could go towards music programs for schools. Let's say that they did some historical, figures as far as athletes are concerned, like Joe Louis, and maybe that money could go to like the Boys and Girls Club or something like that. Even with Mother Teresa, which again, I don't know, it's kind of questionable to do a pop figure of her. I've actually seen bobbleheads of her, and I'm just like, I don't know, that makes it seems a little disrespectful. But let's say that they did a pop of her or somebody, like her that had those same type of goals as her, then maybe that money could go towards feeding the homeless. So I think it would be a good, PR move on Funko's part if they were to do that, with some of these figures. And then also, I think this would be a good opportunity to encourage people to learn more about history. Funko could even put, like little mini bios on the back of the boxes, or, some facts about that individual on the back of the boxes, which I really wish they would take that opportunity more often. A lot of times on the back of the boxes, we just get, other figures in a particular wave, or we may get like a movie poster or something like that. But, when you're dealing with real people, especially, iconic people, it would be a good opportunity to put some information about them. And maybe that would encourage people not to just read that information, but maybe to even go find out more about these historical figures. So again, there's a big opportunity there, in my opinion. So what I want to do, and I'm going to be kind of quick about this, I'm not going to really lay out the reason for every single person that I'm about to name here, but I do want to share some pops of historical figures that I would like to see personally. Now, before I get into this, I do want to make it clear, these are just my opinions. I didn't even confer with anybody else on this. These are just my opinions. Now, and what I really want you all to do, because I know people are going to want to comment on this video, which I definitely appreciate that. But with your comments, you don't need to judge mine, who I would like to see. Just say who you would like to see. Let's keep it that way, because that's not what this video is about. This video is not me trying to speak for the whole collecting community. These are just figures I would like to see personally, and I would like to hear what you would like to see personally. And let's make sure that it is reasonable, because there are some figures that we know Funko is just not going to make. And I remember when I did the Funko news video and I mentioned the possibility of them doing historical figures, almost immediately I got at least 2 or 3 jokes that were done very much in poor taste, and I did block those individuals. So anybody trying to be disrespectful, relating to the way that somebody died, or disrespectful in terms of racism, sexism, whatever it may be, I'm just not going to have that on my channel. My channel really is about positivity. So yeah, just keep that in mind as I move through here. Like I said, you may not agree with some of my choices, but just share your own options down below instead of questioning mine. So I think it would be cool to have a wave of pilots, that are famous in history, including Amelia Earhart, Charles Lindbergh, Benjamin O. Davis Jr., who is one of the Tuskegee Airmen, and also Bessie Coleman. So, yeah, I think these would be phenomenal. And you think about those old school pilot uniforms, they just really stand out. They look pretty cool, and there's some variations to them. So, yeah, I think a wave of historical pilots would be very cool. First man on the moon, Neil Armstrong. I think that just goes without saying, why he would need to be made. It would be cool also if they could do, maybe a variant of him, or just maybe even if they did just one of him actually holding the American flag. That would be cool as well. And even have the detail of how the flag is held up at the top of the flag, how they had the pole going out to hold the flag up. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be pretty cool. Edgar Allan Poe, one of the greatest poets of all time, and they could do him, with the raven on his shoulder, because of course the Raven is his most well-known work, but he does have other phenomenal poems as well. But yeah, Edgar Allan Poe, especially with the way that he tended to dress, that all-black outfit, and like I said, I think the Raven would really set it off also, and make it very clear who he is, even when the pop is outside of the box. And William Shakespeare, I mean, come on, one of the most well-known storytellers of all time, definitely the most well-known playwright of all time. So that's pretty obvious why. And then as far as some artists are concerned, these are the ones that came to my mind. And again, I didn't just focus on the artist having a big name, but I also took a look at pictures of them and thinking about would they make an interesting design as a pop figure. So these are the ones that I chose: Frida Kahlo, Andy Warhol, and Leonardo da Vinci. I think in terms of design as pops, all of them could be very interesting, and of course their work is very prolific. Now, Hollywood icons, there could be dozens, maybe even hundreds of these, but I narrowed it down just to three that came to my mind. Marilyn Monroe, I mean, come on, one of the most famous women ever, pretty much. Definitely a Hollywood icon. Charlie Chaplin, inspired so many people to actually get into film and to get into comedy, and his work still holds up to this day. And then also James Dean. I mean, he just exemplified cool for the longest time, and still does in a way. So yeah, these are the Hollywood icons that really stand out to me. And then, of course, there have to be some heroines, women that have really made major differences. And again, I know there could be a lot more than who I'm listing here, but these are the ones, again, that came to my mind. Joan of Arc, and I mean, Joan of Arc in the armor, obviously that would stand out. That would make it for an interesting design. Harriet Tubman, Eleanor Roosevelt, Eleanor Roosevelt, amazing individual. She did so much more than some people realize. And then also Madame Curie, with her advances in science and just her accomplishments in general, pretty amazing. So, and of course, having her holding the beakers and everything, that would make it, be interesting as well. So, again, going back to what I said about people learning more about history, if people did not know about these individuals, again, maybe this could encourage that if they had their own pop figures. So also here we have Benjamin Franklin, and I do think there should be at least two versions of Benjamin Franklin. I think there should be just kind of a standard one of him in his typical clothing, but then there could also be a chase. It could be either a money green chase, which of course we know why, he's on the $100 bill, or there could be a chase variant of him with the kite and the key on the kite, where he's basically checking for electricity from lightning. So or, they could just do those two variants and not even worry about him in a standard outfit. But I think it would be better if they had at least one of those as a chase. And then Albert Einstein, of course, one of the most well-known scientists of all time. I think there should be more than one variant of him. And I think there actually should be a chase of him sticking his tongue out, which, he had that very well-known photograph of him doing that. I like that just because it shows so much of his personality and that he didn't take everything super serious. So that's why I'm thinking that would be a chase, and I don't think that would be a good chase, and I don't think that would be disrespectful. I mean, it's something that he did do, and it's a picture that's very well known. Two other important leaders here, Margaret Thatcher and Winston Churchill. I mean, again, I don't think this needs to be explained, just how important they are in history. That was really all there is to it. And Margaret Thatcher, she did style herself in different ways. Maybe, definitely not anything flamboyant, But I think they could do maybe a good hair sculpt and everything with her, help her stand out some. But Winston Churchill, the way he styled himself, definitely that hat, the cigar, and the cane and everything, yeah, he would look pretty cool as a pop figure. And with U.S. presidents, I mean, of course, there are so many that could be done. I don't think Funko needs to try to do every single president that there ever was, but I think there are some that stand out. I think there should definitely be more than one variant of Abraham Lincoln. One of him with the hat, the one with the hat could actually be the Chase variant. And by the way, anybody trying to make any poor jokes about the way that he passed away, it's not funny. It's just lame. So I really wish people would stop doing that. Like I said, when I mentioned this in the video previously, somebody also made a very poor joke about JFK, which I don't find funny. So I wish people would have some class, when they talk about these historical figures. Also, I think there could be more than one version of George Washington. And I know some people may feel some different ways about George Washington when you really dig into his past, but he still is the first official president, even though there actually were other leaders in America before him, but he's the first official president. So I think, a Chase variant of him from that famous painting, Crossing the Delaware, the outfit that he had on there, that would be a very cool Chase variant. Teddy Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt, gotta have him in the Rough Rider outfit, his military style outfit. That's just perfection to me. That would be a great design, and I've seen that as bobbleheads and other figures as well. As far as Eisenhower is concerned, I would love to see him in his general's outfit. I actually have a lot of respect for any president that actually, did some real time in the military, or, they were a military leader. I just respect that so much more. I always feel like, if somebody's going to be in that position where they can send people off to possibly die for this country, then they should have been in that position themselves as well. Also, of course, here we have Roosevelt. And this is Franklin D. Roosevelt, who did so many different positive things for this country. It's almost endless. I mean, there are a lot of programs that he put into place, programs that still exist that help people out on a daily basis. Of course, I already mentioned, John F. Kennedy, of course, and Barack Obama. And I know some people are not fans of Barack Obama. And if there are certain policies that you don't like that he put into place, that's fine. But it does kind of bother me that there are some people that say they don't like him and they can't even say a reason why. So they get a default reason of why they don't like him, which I really don't even want to get into. But, with the U.S. presidents, I know it could be a little bit dicey for Funko to make them. But at the same time, if you don't like certain presidents, you don't have to buy them. You just don't have to worry about them. As far as athletes are concerned, again, I think this would be kind of tricky because, making sure that they have the rights to actually do them and there's no issue with the estate or anything, or, it's just, yeah, they got to be careful about it, basically. But Jackie Robinson, I mean, I don't have to explain that. Same thing with Muhammad Ali. I do think Muhammad Ali would be very tough for Funko to get the rights to. And by the way, I do realize that there have been Muhammad Ali figures, especially recently. There was Muhammad Ali versus Superman, those figures, but that was based on a comic. And I think it's because it was based off of a comic. That's why they were able to do that, because he had already given his rights for that comic. But, a straight up Muhammad Ali pop figure, I don't know if Funko could get the rights, but of course that would be awesome if they could. And then Babe Ruth, again, I really don't have to explain why, just one of the most well-known baseball players of all time. You think baseball, you think Babe Ruth, so these are just some of the sports icons that I think, deserve pop figures. Martin Luther King Jr., I mentioned his name several times already. I definitely think it would be a great pop figure. Some people may view that as maybe disrespectful. I don't think it would be, though. And also, I think it would make a good point, because I know from my own personal experience that Funko Pop collecting actually does bring together a lot of people of, very different backgrounds. There are a lot of friends that I've made that, people that I would have never even had the opportunity to associate with if it wasn't for collecting. So, in a way, Funko Pop collecting actually represents some unity. So I think it would be very fitting to have an MLK Pop figure. So those are my ideas for the most part, but I do want to point out here at the bottom of the screen that this is another possibility, or other possibilities. I want to know how you all feel about these, though, of taking characters that have historical significance and making them as pops, including Uncle Sam, Rosie the Riveter, and the Statue of Liberty. And I do mean the straight up Statue of Liberty, not that Freddie Funko version, which already exists, but I mean a straight up version of the Statue of Liberty. Do you think these would be good pop figures as well? Do you think they actually would be worth making, and do you think they would actually sell? Me personally, I don't know. It could be hit or miss. So that's why I really want to hear your feedback on it. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. I look forward to your comments. I hope that they are thoughtful and respectful comments. Let's keep it as positive as possible. And thank you all for watching. I'll talk to you all again real soon.